And once again, we have an interesting open on a Wednesday. Jim Williams, Sean Miller, and the amazing Amadeus joining us from north of the border. Guys, it was fun watching Manchester United yesterday. They put up three and walked out with a good result there, Sean.
Yeah, I think they played pretty well. Um, I think Nottingham Forest stinks, to be honest. Uh, everybody was kind of hyping up Jesse Lingard's talking all this trash for the game, and then he went off injured and faked an injury so he could get the applause of the fans and stuff. Uh, but yeah, it was a little bit of a weird lineup because there's a little bit of a virus going through the squad now. That is not a great time to have that, but because there's so many games, but their squad is big enough, and Rashford's really good, and that's we talked to about Gakpo, like they we don't get Rashford's better than Gakpo. Garnacho's better than Gakpo, like coming on late in the game to just terrorize their right back and stuff. So I mean, I think it's the next test now is Saturday. This is a tough game. They got Wolves in that early game. New look Wolves off the bottom of the table. But yeah, it's pretty good game. Can't complain about it. I was interested. The first game was, I thought, pretty interesting because Chelsea won 2-0, but it wasn't. Bournemouth actually played pretty well in the second half, and but I'm still not convinced by Chelsea. So I don't know what you thought about that game, Amadeus, but
Yeah, Chelsea, they came out, they scored 2 goals in like the first 20 minutes, and that game still managed to stay under. I don't know how that happened, but yeah, it looks like, all these big teams, all the big clubs came to play in these first games back so far. We saw your Man United, even Chelsea, who was struggling prior to the break, came out. The Newcastles, those kinds of teams, they all came out to play, and now all that's left today is Man City. So would expect to see the same from them, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, so far, these teams seem to be exactly what we thought they were prior to the break.
Yep.
What about last night we had a bowl game, which we saw East Carolina destroy Coastal Carolina, and the quarterback of Coastal Carolina, who came back for the game and then was going to declare for the NFL draft, got knocked out of the game. And so it was, if you had the over on that game, you were in great shape.
I'll be, the other game, that game too, I thought East Carolina was going to. I think we both talked about that. East Carolina was, the more likely team to do that, and then the Memphis, the 80% chance there. They absolutely annihilated Utah State. So, and your Buffalo came through with a big win as an underdog there, Amadeus.
Yes. I know we didn't talk about that game on this show, but yeah, I mentioned Buffalo. I thought they had a chance to win. It's usually what happens when you got a team playing an old quarterback. It's the one guy versus an entire roster of players who want to get after that one guy. So yeah, I thought they didn't play great, but I thought they still. It was one of those games where like they were taking the lead, and every time they would do a drive, like they would come away with 3 points, or like they would get to midfield and punt it. But then the other team, Georgia Southern, would do a 3 and out. And that's how the whole first half went basically. And I was sitting there like, okay, Buffalo's winning the game, but like barely by 2 scores, and they should be winning by a lot more right now.
Well, and in a case like that, you've got the Mid America Conference team, and it's really hard to gauge how those teams play against other teams. It's when you're comparing conference versus conference and team versus team, it does make it a little more difficult.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, it was good on them. Thank God for them. They weren't playing at home.
Yes. Yeah. It's still snowing there.
Yeah.
Crazy. That's, it's getting worse and worse.
Yeah. And they're unfortunately trying to dig out from what they had before. So we wish everybody in the Buffalo area, be safe up there because it is really a mess. So that's why I guess the bowl games are all played in southern cities, except for, some of them. I think the Military Bowl is one of the games today, which is played at Indianapolis. So fortunately, the weather in the area is not too bad, so that shouldn't be a tough one. Then you got the Holiday Bowl tonight, and I honestly I don't see how Oregon doesn't win this game.
Yeah, I think when you look at this, they're a huge 70% chance to win. Nix has obviously been pretty good. North Carolina has really struggled down the stretch. Not that Oregon hasn't, but they lost two games by less than a touchdown. North Carolina got blown out by Clemson. Lost to NC State. Bad loss to Georgia Tech. Stinks. Struggled against Wake, and North Carolina is just always struggling in these tight games. I would think Oregon wins pretty easily, but is May playing or tonight?
I think so.
Okay, I mean, he gives him a chance, but obviously with almost 5,000 yards of offense, but it's. I think the Oregon total team is probably a little bit better.
Well, I think the other point too with Oregon is that with Bo Nix at quarterback, I think they want to make a statement that says, all right, we want to prove to people that we're maybe a top 10, top 15 team. So let's just take this, ACC team and just, do whatever we can to just, put some big points on the board and give us, some national credibility, because the teams in the West, because of playing so late and things like that, they don't necessarily. There is an East Coast bias, and so they take these bowl games seriously because they know that it's an opportunity to showcase what they've got. Plus, not for nothing, Oregon had a top 5 recruiting class, so it's definitely benefits them to do their best against Mac Brown is a heck of a coach, and he's done a lot of good things in North Carolina, but unfortunately I just don't think he's got the team this time around.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Some of these games have been a little bit surprising, but I think when you talk about this, it's probably going to be Oregon here. It's interesting, There's an event going on now that it's during the pandemic, kind of had to write about because there was nothing else going on. But it's the darts. I don't know if you have the darts up there in Canada, Amadeus.
They show it on TV when there's literally nothing else to watch. Like they'll show poker before they show darts, but.
I mean, the betting is, the betting on it now. It's in the middle of the third round. The defending champion lost today, I think. I don't know. I've been watching some of it just because everybody kind of sometimes in the afternoon I'll watch it. But I don't know, Jim, if you ever had any kind of.
I've watched it. I might be. I count it as a I count it as a win for me if I hit the same wall that the dartboard's on. So I've never been able to play it. One of the things that was garnering, you were talking about, betting during the pandemic. One of the things that garnered surprise to me, but entertaining, was Korean was Korean table tennis.
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting there going, watching these, maniacs just whacking the tennis. I mean, the ping pong ball back and forth across the table, standing virtually, I think, in like 50 feet away from the table when there's just cracking it up. It was a lot of fun. There were some people got very creative during COVID when it came to things that you would bet on.
They had the Russian table tennis as
That
well.
too, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because the whole strategy I had during that was just bet 3 favorites and pray one of them doesn't get beat, and you just get it down to a plus 100 parlay and just hope. I did pretty well with that over the course of every once in a while one of these guys would lose and it'd be like, this is fixed. This is fixed. I can't believe I'm betting on table tennis here. But
our buddy Allie Burns bought a car from her winnings on Russian table tennis.
How about that? Yeah. No, I think I think it's it's one of these things. I mean, it's actually like tennis. I mean, we got the tennis coming up now.
The Australian Open.
Yeah. Adelaide's coming up, and they're I guess they let Djokovic into the country now, and that whole nonsense.
The Joker is in the house.
Time.
Yeah, now they all look like dopes for doing all that stuff, but I think he's going to be. I do. Tennis is interesting. I think it's like the majors. Obviously, no one cares about.
Well, who's even going to take Djokovic on? You got Medvedev, who pretty much like stepped away from the sport now. I don't know if anybody can challenge Djokovic.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Is Rafa hurt?
I think he's been dealing with like the knee injury for so long. I know he only plays really in the major tournaments, but
here's the current odds.
I don't know if he's still playing again.
Here's the current odds to win the Australian Open. Djokovic is basically even money. Alcaraz is pretty good.
Yeah,
Medvedev's right there, but Nadal. But then you're down to Yannick Sinner. I don't know, Kyrgios, like Holger, Rune.
I'm waiting for Zverev to come back. I watched the match where he pretty much like broke his ankle in.
Yeah,
I swear he was going to beat Nadal in that match. If he
already got
roll his ankle, he was so on. And I think Zverev is going to be
French Open too. They have French Open odds as well here. So
already,
see, there's Zverev. He's back. He'll be back for the French Open just in time for clay.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So yeah. There's. It's interesting. As we get closer to like, I think once NCAA, the football ends,
right?
And the NFL playoffs, obviously, I think I don't know what the French Open dates are. I think or not French Open.
That's in March.
Australia is it in March now?
That's the French Open's in March.
They changed
end of March and beginning of April. They kind of move it around a little bit.
Yeah, now the Australian Open is the 15th to the 29th, so it's
of January.
It's basically right after the NCAA football ends, and it's they have the NFL playoffs is right there, but I think
there's also that same time you get a couple of other things that are very entertaining betting wise, and that of course is golf returns, as does NASCAR.
French Open Sunday, May 28th.
Like no others.
Sunday,
right?
French Open Sunday, May 28th to Sunday, June 11th.
Okay, then and then after that, obviously, is Wimbledon.
Yep.
SW19.
Yeah.
There you go. So we got some stuff to look forward to, and there's obviously baseball gets underway at that point in time.
The Korean baseball season will be returning, I think, in February.
Probably.
Love me some Korean. Speaking of the Korean sports, you can ask Sean. I'm all about that Korean baseball. That was my dirty pleasure during the pandemic.
That's right. Yep. Mine was Belarus and Nicaragua football.
Oh, I love the Nicaraguan soccer, man. Oh,
they were
Now I
Nicholas?
look at it and I don't even want to look at it. There's like 7 teams in the league, but
These are so bad. Yeah, I know. I don't even know who's. It's crazy. I mean, that was the thing. Everybody was writing stories about Belarus and sluts and all those teams and everything, Soligor and everything. And then all of a sudden, the next year they were the only ones playing, and they were getting all these sponsor deals. And then next thing you know, it's like Belarus. Who cares about Belarus? But it was pretty interesting because they had crowds at the games and everything. So yeah, it's pretty.
Well, there was a big. I mean, one of the other things that was so interesting was people involved in esports.
Yep.
And how big esports got. As a matter of fact, the University of South Florida now actually has you can get a degree in esports.
Wow.
Well, I won't lie to you. I have bet on CS:GO before. I am a gamer myself, so I actually know quite a bit. I actually had a buddy who played CS:GO, like not professionally, but he was a sweaty, as we call it, one of the hardcore players who takes it very seriously. And he would tell me, who to bet. You want to bet the FaZe Clan, ninjas in pajamas, things like that. So it's entertaining. I'm not a big Dota 2 guy, but I thought the CS:GO ones were entertaining because you could have a team would be down by like 6 points, and then all of a sudden they'd win, 8 straight rounds. And it could flip at the table with the map. It all depends, right? So,
somebody who has done a lot of work in that area and actually is putting together major tournaments around the country is Ted Leonsis and Zach Leonsis. Zach's his son. Down at the Capital. I can't say it's Capital One Arena now. I've got to be careful how what sponsor I plug for them. But they've got the NBA and they've got all these other gaming deals that they have, and they have some big things. I mean, I think the winner of the last one won $25,000 or $30,000.
Wow.
So it's it's a big time. They're getting into it, and hey, good for them.
Yeah, I won't bet on these like virtual sports because all I picture in my head is me sitting on the couch playing FIFA and getting super mad when things not going my way. But I don't know, esports is different to me for some reason. Like I feel like these players, they take first person shooters so seriously, some of these people. So I don't know. I find it more entertaining.
I have a friend who called me one time. We were talking, and he said to me, my daughter's become quite good at tennis. And I go, oh, that's wonderful. Where does she play? And he goes, in our living room. She's playing the ATP tennis. And I'm like, okay, so your daughter, who never picked up a tennis racket, is fantastic at a sport that you sit down and play. Okay, fair enough. But hey, that's just a generational thing. I enjoy playing, sports, but on the PGA golf and stuff like that. But it's an interesting thing. It's very interesting how how the games, the Madden and all that other stuff has changed the way people, enjoy their free time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Not a big Madden guy, but
yeah, I'm not either because I just get crushed. So it does.
Yeah, right. And then you're down by 30, and you're like,
no, I'm losing. I'm losing to 12-year-olds. So I'm at that point. I'm like, this is just too much. I can't take it.
Yeah, I stopped buying Madden a long time ago. FIFA is really the only sports game I buy.
So there you go. What about, guys? Let's talk a little bit. Paris Saint-Germain plays this afternoon, and
Yes.
So they're back in the saddle. Will any of their star players be there?
Mbappe's playing.
Oh, he is? Mbappe's
Yeah,
gonna
Mbappe's going to play. I would think, Neymar probably plays. He's got to get his games in now before he takes off for his sister's birthday in March. I think, talked about Fox. He was on here yesterday. If Ekatike plays, I actually think we talked about it yesterday. One of the things I like today is Manchester City over 3.5 goals and PSG over 3.5 goals. I just wrote a story in Frenzy.com about the Champions League and how it's interesting that the two best players at the World Cup are on the same team now.
play.
And the
Has
more
that ever happened?
I can't imagine. I mean, maybe a long time ago when they went back to all the Brazilians went back to Corinthians or whatever.
Hmm.
Or I'm trying to think. Recently maybe Germany with. I don't think so. Germany, because who was on Barcelona? Messi was Barcelona. He went back. I don't think it's been like that. It's interesting because if you want to, it's on NJ.com and it's on Lehigh Valley under the betting tab. But PSG right now is the third choice to win this Champions League, and I just think, with the Ballon d'Or stuff, I think it's probably a head-to-head battle right now between Messi and Mbappe. Maybe Haaland is in there if they win, but Haaland didn't go to the World Cup. So, if Mbappe just goes crazy in these Champions League and scores 10 goals in the next, and they win it, and then they once again he comes out next year and does the same thing. I think. I'm looking at these. Let me pull these up. I think this is really interesting. These odds right now. Champions League futures. Because you have Manchester City at plus 180. Manchester City right now is favored to win every competition they're in. They're 7 points back going into today's game against in the Premier League right now, and they're basically minus 200 to win the Premier League, which I think is a little bit interesting. But Manchester City to be plus 180 here with a injury-prone Erling Haaland who could get injured at any time. And he has been injured a lot of times in at key spots, which is why Dortmund never won anything with him. You have PSG, the third choice, and PSG is really only the third choice here because they play Bayern Munich in the next round. But remember, Bayern Munich doesn't have Manuel Neuer, and I just think they're a little bit overrated here. Liverpool, Napoli ahead of Real Madrid, which just boggles my mind too. But if PSG gets through here and gets a decent draw, they're going to be plus 250 or plus 300. Just with Mbappe and Messi and Neymar and all these players, Sergio Ramos, who's won a million Champions League. He's won 4 Champions Leagues as well. Messi won 4. Mbappe was dragged Monaco to a Champions League semifinal and PSG to a final in 2020. This to me, you got pretty decent odds here. The only reason they're plus 725 is once again they play Bayern Munich. If they beat Bayern Munich, and say Real Madrid beats Liverpool, those two teams' odds are going to shoot down to plus 350, plus 400. So to me. I'm going to throw Manchester City out. I mean, at plus 200, maybe you throw a little bit on them, but there's so much. These teams here offer me way better value. Real Madrid plus 1,400, Napoli, who's very interesting, plus 1,400. I think both of us think we're not going to take Liverpool.
First of all, Napoli they destroyed Liverpool in the group stage. How can you? I get it's because of the draw, but how can you even put them behind Liverpool?
Yeah, no, I 100%. And Napoli has an easier draw. They play Frankfurt. I'm going to throw Liverpool out here.
Frankfurt, who's going to lose Kolomwani there?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'll probably throw Bayern Munich out. I don't think they're good enough to win 4 ties.
Defensive issues, man.
Defensive issues, or whatever. So for me, if I'm looking at these other teams, PSG at plus 725, Napoli 1400, Real Madrid 1400, all good enough to win. I don't think Tottenham could win 4 ties, 3 ties in a final. Benfica maybe, but they're still Benfica. There's your AC Milan at plus 5,000.
Oh, they're not doing anything. How somebody even picks them to win the title last year is still beyond me.
And Chelsea at 1,800. So to me, PSG, Napoli, Real Madrid are probably the teams I would probably back right now, with a little bit on Manchester City. And then, Napoli, you're probably still going to be able to get at a decent price next round if they go through. But I can't understand why this PSG team isn't, between here at like plus 500 and Bayern Munich's down, without Neuer and all this stuff. So, I mean, that's just me, but I don't know if you think that's probably a decent analysis there, Amadeus, but
yeah, absolutely. I actually had one of my buddies, Cape, sometimes he's in the comment section. He asked me about PSG. He had it boosted at plus 920 to win Champions League. I told him, take it, because it's either going to be them, Man City, or Real Madrid. I really can't see another team when, as you said, Bayern Munich, they got problems. They got big defensive problems. They can score goals, but you run into a Man City or a PSG that plays, better defense, and all of a sudden you're going to hit a wall where scoring goals isn't really going to help you out. And then those teams between Real Madrid and PSG, like Liverpool and Napoli, maybe Napoli could make a run like we saw Ajax did, but
I don't know about they could win 4 ties.
That's what I mean. They could get picked apart this January too. Like who even knows what's good? They weren't supposed to be good this year, and they're overachieving. And when big clubs see that, they're gonna go in and they're gonna pick apart, Osimhen, all these other guys. So it's a tough one. I don't even see why there's all those teams between Real Madrid and PSG. I think it's pretty clear cut between the 3 teams.
Well, let me ask you a question, boys. How do you get Man City right above PSG?
Like 3 squads of players. That's why.
Yeah,
okay.
Because. And also because of let me go back to this here English. I think Erling Haaland's probably De Bruyne. You look at the Premier League right now. These odds to me are I don't get it. I think Arsenal. I don't think people believe in Arsenal. I think Newcastle should probably be closer to maybe 1,000. You get them at plus. You can get Newcastle at plus 110 to finish top 4, which I think is crazy. They have 1 loss this year. They're spending in January. Right there. That's and this play plus 2,500. You might as well put $10 on it or $20 because they have a chance to win. I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen in January if they go out and they spend some. What if they get João Felix and a defender and some Enzo Fernandez or something because they got unlimited funds? You just don't know. I mean, they could be a factor. And then when you look at the EFL Cup, here's the ties: Manchester United, Charlton Athletic, Newcastle, Leicester, Nottingham Forest, Wolves, Manchester City, Southampton. So Manchester City now is minus 118 to win it. That's there's only 8 teams left, and they're probably going to walk through the FA Cup. Manchester City is plus 350 here. This is the one I think that these odds should be a little bit more spread out because City hasn't really won the FA Cup that often. I mean. I think maybe
it's always Liverpool, Chelsea, isn't it?
it's Chelsea's like it's crazy how often Chelsea has won. I mean, in the last Chelsea's been in 5 of the last 6 finals. They've lost 4 of them. They lost to Arsenal in 2017. They beat Manchester United 1-0 in 2018. They lost to Arsenal. They lost to Leicester City, and they lost to Liverpool in penalties. So, I mean, Chelsea's been in 4 of the last 5 of the last 6 finals. Manchester City's only won 1 title. They beat Watford 6-0. And then they won in 2011. And then they lost to Wigan in 2013. But Manchester City's only been to 3 finals in like 40 years or 50 years. I mean, before 2011, you got to go. I don't even know when the last time they were in it. 1981 when they lost to Tottenham. So, to me, it's clear they don't prioritize it. There's going to be, if Arsenal can keep the pressure on in the Premier League at some point. Manchester City, that game on February 15th is massive. Manchester City at some point has to maybe say, you know what, we're going to prioritize the Champions League. We're going to prioritize winning the league. Maybe we'll throw out some kids in the thing. And, if they don't just, if they don't get, League Two and 13th division teams in every round like they have in the last few years here, and they actually start getting some decent draws, like they just had to play Liverpool. If they get eventually somebody could beat them. So, I don't think they should be favored in a couple of these things. But, especially with this FA Cup, I mean, they should be like 500 and Liverpool maybe, it should be a little more spread out. I don't even think Liverpool is to be honest, is great here.
Just bet Chelsea to make the final.
Yeah, yep. Chelsea here plus 1,200. It depends on what happens. I personally, this is just a personal opinion. I think it's hugely important for United to win a trophy this year. I think they're going to try to they're in the Carabao Cup quarters and they're playing Charlton. Hopefully they get a decent draw in the semifinals. That 2-legged tie that i.e. they don't play Manchester City. And maybe they make a run in the FA Cup. They play Everton in that first leg. So that could be. I think that's at home as well. Everton may or may not have a new manager by then. I would think Everton's gonna say we don't care about this. We gotta stay in the Premier League, especially after they're just gonna get blown out this weekend by City. And then they have that game on Tuesday that they're going to have to, they lost to Wolves. They're going to get blown out by City. And then they're going to have to play, a tough game in the league. So I can't imagine they'll be ready to put anybody out in that game. I actually forget who they play, but it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I don't know why they're actually, completely favored by it like that. I think they maybe should be a little closer to 500. But PSG, Everton plays Brighton and Hove on that Tuesday, which is a tough game. I mean, obviously Brighton played well, so yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff going on, and I don't think City's going to win. I think City's just one of these teams. They're maybe not gonna. They'll win eventually. And maybe when they win one, they'll win a few. But there's just other teams that are just as good as them. So, I mean, it's for them to be basically almost even money in a tournament with 16 teams is crazy.
If you're a coach, and I'm throwing this out to you guys, if you're a coach, obviously you want to win your league. But do you, when you start looking at these other, this is the only sport where there's extra tournaments going on at the same time you're playing your league play. Okay. There's no other sport that has that. As a manager or a coach or whatever in this particular situation, how do you set up a lineup knowing that you've got a league game, this week, and you also are in a dogfight in another in another competition.
Yeah, so sometimes I think, you just want to go based off a matchup perspective. Like, obviously, you want to rest players. It all depends, really. It all depends on how much you care about the game. That's one thing
Right.
I've always said, and it's a big reason why I don't bet cup matches, is because I know you're not getting the best lineup out there, because the managers are going to save these players for the league matches or even the Champions League matches. Whereas like a cup match, it's a good opportunity to get some younger players in there, right? A lot of these teams, they don't care about the cup. They're more focused on, either staying in the league, winning the league title, winning maybe either Europa League or the Champions League if they're in something like that. So yeah, there's a lot to take into consideration as a manager, and it's always something I'm thinking about when I'm handicapping games. Is how motivated. It's not just what players are going to start, but it's how motivated are these players to come out and play as well.
Here's a good example. Everton. I'm just going to use them because we've been talking about them and they're struggling in the league. So Everton right now is 17th. They're only a point out of the bottom three, and they're only 2 points out of the last place here. So they got to stay in the league. I mean, we talked about that yesterday. There's no way they can't get relegated. If they get relegated, they're in a lot of trouble. Here's their schedule coming up. They just lost to Wolves. They play Manchester City 5 days after that on Saturday, right? Then they play, so they're going to get annihilated because they already know going into this game, look, we have a game on Tuesday, we have a game on Friday, then we play on the 14th, 21st, then there's a little bit of a break, right? So because here's the FA Cup, I think, is in there somewhere again. This is the fourth round. So there's no way they're going to be able to put anybody out there. This Manchester City is going to probably know that and maybe rotate as well, but their backups are once again finished top 5, top 6 in the league easily, maybe top 4. So this is basically a wash. You got to just say like, I don't even know who they throw out, and in this game, because they need to win this home game 100%. Lampard can't lose to Wolves because they lost it. Here's what happened in the third round. They lost to Bournemouth. They lost to Leicester City. They lost to Bournemouth twice in a week, 4-1 and 3-0, which is bad. Then they come out of the break and lose. This game, 6-0. They have to target this game. So their starters probably play in this game 100%, which means now in this third round FA Cup game, because they're trying to stay in the league, they probably use backups against Manchester United. Now, Manchester United could as well because they have Manchester United will play Wolves, and then they play Bournemouth, which is an easier game for them, obviously at home, right? So, for me here, probably Manchester United is going to play a stronger lineup. Everton probably doesn't really want to. They definitely don't. I'm not sure if there's replays this year. I forget if they've scrapped them or not for the third round. They 100% don't want to replay. So they probably say, we don't really care here. Then they have Southampton, who's in last place right now, which is a relegation battle the next game. Then West Ham on the road, Arsenal, Liverpool, Leeds, Aston. They have some games coming up after these ones that are tough. So for me, if I'm looking at this as a handicapper, this is probably backups. We don't care. This is probably backups. They don't care. They're not going to win the cup. They're not winning 5 matches to win the FA Cup. They're not good enough. They can't. They've won 3 matches all year in the Premier League. They're going to target this game. They're 100% targeting this game. So probably full strength squad here, full strength squad here. So, but that's why when Amadeus talks about cup matches, sometimes like you just have to make sure, these teams are playing, strong lineups here. And then, Manchester United has Charlton midweek here. After this game Friday, they play Charlton in the Cup. But once again, they don't have to play a full strength team before they play again on that weekend. They don't play until they play Manchester City on the 14th. So they play Tuesday and Saturday. So they'll probably play a little bit weekend, and then they're going to try to play a strong lineup here. So you can kind of see how they're going to play this stuff. But, the important thing to know is, the reason that Manchester City is favored in all the tournaments is because they have 2 squads or 3 squads full of players. Some of these teams don't. You saw Manchester United be able to kind of move some players around yesterday, back up right back up left back, and still, Nottingham Forest didn't trouble them at all. So, they have a decent squad of players. Liverpool, obviously, the teams near the top. So I think that's why they're favored and why these other teams could struggle in these tournaments.
So you thought it goes down to depth.
100%. Yeah, it's just about depth at this point. If you see, some of these cup teams, they put out, Manchester City puts out, Riyad Mahrez as a cup player. And this guy was the player. This guy was the player of the year in 2016, for Leicester City. It's Chelsea a little bit, but I don't think their squad is as strong anymore. They used to be able to do that. That's why they always got to cup finals. They had all those young kids that they could put in, and you see them getting to 5 out of 6 FA Cup. A, because they prioritize it, but B, also because they can rotate and still play a decent lineup. And if you're playing for 1-0 wins, or you're playing to Chelabon ball, where you're just trying to terrorize these teams and just, sit back with 10 behind the ball and you don't give up a goal, you have a chance to win these games. I mean, the 2 finals they lost last year to Liverpool, it was 0-0 and they went to penalties, but they had chances to win. So that's basically what it's about. I mean, it's something, when you see this, in the NBA, how sometimes, these you see these teams and they just don't play.
Right.
Back-to-backs or whatever. They just, the Nets sit 9 guys or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You people get mad as like bettors. You're like, can't believe I bet the Nets tonight. They sat everybody. Well, you got to know that. Like if you don't know that going in, you shouldn't be betting these NBA games or anybody that knows basketball. When you bet in soccer, that's why Amadeus and I kind of know what's going on with these games, and maybe we stay away from a game that looks good, and we're like, I'm going to stay away from that. The Chelsea-Bournemouth game, I think, was an example of that yesterday. Chelsea should have won the game pretty easily, but, I just said, you know what, there's a chance they don't. So I'm not going to, I thought Manchester United was much better equipped to win that game by more than 1 goal. So, but yeah, it's tough. I mean, you have to know, what's going on and Serie A or in Italy, they play the Copa matches in these random weeks. In Spain they play the Copa del Rey. It's like 4 weeks in a row they play these Copa matches in the middle of the week, and teams just start to get run down. The Real Madrid here, Real Madrid has to go. They play. They got to go to Morocco for the Club World Cup, which was postponed because of the World Cup. So they're going to go to Morocco. The final is on the 11th. They play Liverpool in the first leg on the 21st. They got to play Atletico Madrid, and right after that game on the weekend, they play some matches. They got to host Liverpool on the 15th of March. And then on that Sunday, they play the Clásico against Barcelona. I mean, you got to kind of know, hey, listen, there's all these matches, and you got to say, listen, Real Madrid's in the Copa del Rey against some team. You know what? Maybe they don't play their starters, and maybe they don't care if they win. This happens in Italy a lot. These teams, the finals are usually, and even France, PSG last year, it was like Nantes and somebody else, like, I don't even remember who, I think Nantes and Toulouse or something,
Well, that's how Nantes got into the Europa League.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
They finished ninth in the table and won a cup match to get into Europa,
or
won the cup. Sorry,
Real Betis. Last year in Spain, Real Betis won the cup, and it was the cup from like the year before or something. But you just have to know, sometimes these big teams prioritize certain things, and over the years, you could tell, like, obviously Pep Guardiola does not prioritize the FA Cup. He does the Carabao Cup because they've won it 5 of the last 7 years. So he cares about the Carabao Cup because it's in February, and I think gives him a boost. It's an early cup. He clearly wants to win the Premier League, and he clearly wants to win the Champions League. The FA Cup, maybe not. So if I'm seeing Manchester City, minus 350 against, I don't know, it's Brighton and Hove Albion in the 5th round, maybe I'll back off that game. Usually I'd say minus 1.5, but maybe I'll say, you know what, he's not prioritizing this. I'm gonna sit this one out.
Well, you said, Sean, in the past that talking about Champions League, right? That that in some regards you'll try harder to win the Champions League than you may try to win, the ELP.
I mean, if for Manchester United, clearly this year, I mean, it's a pretty tough break. They got Barcelona, but I don't know. I think they could probably, beat Barcelona if they wanted to. But I think it'll be interesting to see, like, some of these teams. I think he really needs to win a trophy, or at least get to a final. When I go over to England a lot, the first, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, the guy I would always talk to, this guy, Barry, who owns it's the smallest bar in Europe, the thickest tavern, and it's, he'd be like, look, this is about getting to Wembley, cup finals and the day out at Wembley. And of course you want to win trophies. But the supporters want to go to the cup finals, and it's a day out, and it's a huge event, and trophies are what it's about. Top 4. It's become about top 4 and Champions League and all this other stuff because you got to keep your Adidas deals and. But it's about trophies, about winning. AC Milan last year winning that trophy is probably like Amadeus. Say for hey, we won I saw him win a title.
Yeah, literally, I haven't seen them good since PSG fleeced them for Thiago Silva and Zlatan back in like 2010.
Yeah, and this is a team, obviously that's won 7 European Cups. I mean, they're a big team, but I saw United in 2011, my first trip over there. I saw them win the record title, number 19. They first time I was over, I was over in 2013. I saw them win the title. I saw them win number 20. I've been to Champions League finals to see them. It's about winning trophies when you're Manchester United. When you're Newcastle and you're building up, and 5 years from now you're going to be this massive club. It's about maybe getting top 4 this year, and Champions League is big for them. But like for Manchester City, for Liverpool, for Chelsea, for Manchester United, not Tottenham clearly because they never win anything. Arsenal, for Arsenal, winning those FA Cups, even when they were terrible, they won 3 or 4 FA Cups in like 8 years. That's big. You get something to celebrate.
And, because of that, now that they're good, I think you're going to see them focus on the league more, especially since they're in first. That's going to be like maybe they throw away the cup matches this year because, you were winning when you were bad. Now you're good and you want to try and win a different trophy.
Yeah, they're going to get top 4, so they don't have to necessarily, in 2019 when they lost the Europa League final to Chelsea, that was a path into Europe. That was a path into the Champions League, and they lost. This year they'll be in the, there's, I would imagine there's going to be top 4. I can't imagine any way that Arsenal falls out. So maybe if it's tight down the stretch, maybe, if they got to go to, I don't know, Manchester United in the Europa League, or they got to go to Rennes, or they got to go to somewhere in Eastern Europe. Maybe they don't send the strongest side out there. Maybe they say, we'll try to win with our backups and stuff, and maybe they get knocked out, and maybe something like that, and they're going to be focused on the league here. So, and maybe FA Cup, something like that.
So basically, at the end of the day, this is every team has different priorities on how they handle these additional competitions.
Yeah. And you have to kind of know, if you've watched, 6 billion games like we have in the last, 10 years, or, I've been watching it since, forever. You kind of know which teams, Chelsea and Arsenal prioritize the FA Cup and making runs. And, you kind of know where their priorities lie after, patterns are there, I think. We talk, same thing, the Patriots have beaten the Jets 14 times.
Mm-hmm.
Like at some point, it's not like, and the worst loss of them all this year with the punt return, like at some point, it's not like, dang, there's like dark magic or something going. Like it's just, you're never gonna, even if they win the next one, maybe they lose the next 5 or something. It's like
it never balances out.
Yeah. You say, look, I know Arsenal, or I know Manchester City is good, but they don't prioritize this. Maybe they do this year, but I still don't think so. Until I see it. I'm not gonna back them at some point. So.
Well, to your point earlier about basketball, you've got those situations where you're on the road for 3 or 4 games, right? And you're playing your 4th game in 6 days, and that game is going to be the game where, the stars are going to play 10 minutes, and the rest of the guys are going to play the rest of the game because everybody's exhausted. Yep. And so at this point, how many games can you play? If you tally in all of the league games plus all of these additional games, that's a long season.
Here's a good example. The Vikings right now have the 2nd best record in the NFL, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And they've, they're over the years, the kicker missed a 20-yard field goal, and the cold, and and they lose. They're 15-1, and they lose at home to the Falcons, and there's no reason that the Vikings are plus 2,500, plus 2,200 to win the Super Bowl right now, behind the Cowboys, who are going to be behind them in the 49ers, other than the fact that nobody thinks they can win the Super Bowl. Like, nobody has any faith, and you just watch them come back from 33. This is the greatest comeback ever. And they have all this stuff, and they're 10-0 and close games. But like, until they do it, no one's going to have any faith in them. The Bills, the Chiefs are always there. Eagles won a 5 years ago. The 49ers were in the final, the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and they got to the thing. The Bengals were there last year. The Cowboys, the same thing. I think, maybe the Cowboys aren't getting. The Cowboys always blow it. If these teams were, they should be higher up the thing. But people just say, you know what? Until you show me you could do it, I'm not backing you. And I 100% agree. Like, Vikings aren't winning the Super Bowl, and they're not winning the NFC because at some point they're going to play a team that's just as good as them, and that that game where they're 33-0 down at halftime, it's going to end 53-0, and they're just they're not going to get they're just going to get buried in a game because they they win all these close games, but close games means the other team has a chance to win. So,
well, it's the old they'll find a way to lose before they find a way to win.
The same with the Cowboys last year with that last drive. 100% the Cowboys. The Cowboys have the talent. They just beat the Eagles. They're clearly talented.
Well, they haven't won a Super Bowl. They haven't won a Super Bowl since
1996.
I was going to say since Barry Switzer took over for Jimmy Johnson in that famous routine of when Jerry Jones got a little bit grievously overserved by an apprentice bartender, and he made the comment that anybody could coach his team to a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yep.
And so there's been a little bit of karma there because everybody.
They haven't
not-
even been to the Super Bowl. They only
No.
had like 2 playoff wins in that time.
Yeah, I don't think. What was it? Did Romo have a playoff win?
I think he had 1 or 2. I did a thing the other day. I think it's like there was a couple, but there's not been many in the last 25 years. They're like 4-11. I think they're 4-11 since they won the last Super Bowl.
The Barry Switzer Super Bowl.
3 Super Bowls in 4 years, and then they've been 4-11 in the playoffs since, which isn't very good because they've only been to the playoffs 11 times in that span. Which
look at Green Bay. I mean, you would think all of the stuff that Green Bay's done over the years, in the time that Aaron Rodgers has been there, Aaron Rodgers, other than getting them to 1 Super Bowl, didn't do a damn thing.
Yeah, they've won the same thing. They've won 1 Super Bowl since Brett Favre beat the Patriots. So it's the Broncos have won 3 in that time. It's just the Broncos stink, but then when they're good, they win Super Bowls. Like
Right.
It's just weird. I mean, some of these teams, when they're good, they're going to be really good, but it's it's the same. It goes to the NBA. The Clippers are very good. Does anyone think the Clippers are going to win? No. Because they're the Clippers, the other,
they're not even the best team in their building.
Yeah, you see the team like Toronto when they were good, they took their chance, they won the title. The Bucks, they got to they won their title, they got that title. The Suns are a team that have all been there a few times and they always lose. Like it's just there's a lot of things like that. The Union have never won a title. They've never won a trophy. They've been really good a lot of times. Like I wanted them to win for Philly, but they everybody knew they were going to lose because they never win trophies.
They had the trophy in their hands with 5 minutes to go.
They're jinxed, man. They're jinxed. They're just not. They're one of these teams. Benfica. That's the greatest thing ever. Benfica won 2 European Cups in a row. And they didn't want to pay somebody, so that guy jinxed them. And they've been to the final. They've been to finals. They lost in '68 to United with Savio. They've never been back. They've never won another title. They've never won a Champions League since 1962, since the curse was placed. 100 years. So if you're betting on them, bet on them to win the 2063 Champions League.
So you could really get one heck of a futures bet down on that one.
Yep, probably get decent odds on that.
that would be a good one. Okay, boys. Any final thoughts before we get out here on a fun but cool Wednesday morning?
No, just interesting game today. No Premier League tomorrow, but there's the French League is back again today, and Spanish League is back tomorrow, and after that, all the leagues are basically back. So
only Germany and Italy are lazy.
It's it. I think that's strange in this year where people are like begging for content, soccer content. You have this break and you let these other league kind of get the. Now, once again, I think that's
German league never plays in January. They never play, and they basically said, we're going to come back late from the World Cup.
It's why people don't care about the first of all, it's a joke, but they just don't. And there's some decent games there, but who cares? Like everybody else is playing, and you're sitting on the sidelines. You could have.
They also start like a week later than the rest of the leagues in August.
They play more midweek games, and it's the same thing. It's just like there's all this hype around and then you're sitting there like waiting for like, all right, and everybody gets into the other leagues. That's
Premier League in France are 2 weeks in, and you're like, first day of Bundesliga is coming up.
The Premier League now, and then the La Liga is back on ESPN, and ESPN Sports has French League. And then all of it, these other leagues are sitting on the sidelines. You're just like, and then nobody watches. So it is what it is. But yeah, there's a lot of games here. So this weekend will be great. There's Saturday will be a crazy day of sports. So,
well, that's what we live for is crazy days of sports, and hopefully that will continue. So anyway, all right, guys, it's been fun, and I think I'm going to try to clear the slate so I can watch PSG play this afternoon. and I think you said they're on BN today.
Yeah. Let me just check that on World. I use World Soccer Talk. It's just they have
Good
everything
site.
on there. Yeah. It's anything, any game you're trying to look for is on there. So give us a sponsorship deal there too as well. Upcoming games here. Let's see. Cruz Azul against America, Copa Mexico, and Guadalajara Atlas. And that happened. I guess that was yesterday. They play on BN Sports, and the other ones, the other French league games are on BN Sports Connect. The Portuguese league is on Goal TV. The Scottish league is on CBS Sports. So basically everything, and Paramount as well. Turkish leagues on BN Sports Connect and BN Sports. So they're just wall to wall action. So
You'll find it. It'll be there. Take a little time, and we'll see. So, all right, boys. Well, we will have a lot of fun tomorrow. We have Thursday night football as we start to wind our way into the playoffs, and tomorrow the aforementioned Dallas Cowboys will take on the let me see if I can blow this again Tennessee Titans as they continue their role to not make the playoffs. So we'll see all of that tomorrow, and we'll talk obviously about soccer. So guys, have a lovely day, and bring friends tomorrow because we always like to have a good crowd. So until then, for Sean and Amadeus, I'm Jim Williams saying so long. We will be with you tomorrow.